showed symptoms of depression. This link between depression and bullying is certainly complex. These are just some of the aspects that we might want to take note of. The ways in which bullying can lead to depression when persistent, also anxiety. Bullying can be a catalyst for suicidal behavior in someone who is already depressed. And in addition, depression and other kinds of mental health problems can simply make people more of a target for bullying. If we look at LGBT adults, and I know our focus today is really primarily on youth, but I think that because these studies are being done on adults, they're certainly worth looking at. These first two references, the Hodson-Buehler AL references, those are both drawn again from that Nisar study. Actually, the first one? Yeah, I think that they're both drawn from the 2004-5 data. Both of those are really instructive things to read, so you might want to just kind of put a little asterisk on those, and if you get a chance, get those papers, and if you have any trouble finding them, I'd be happy to send you. I have all of these in PDF. What the Hodson-Buehler studies are really looking at is the impact of what they call institutional discrimination, which it's discrimination through laws and policies. And they're showing really, really important relationships between people who live in states where they're directly influenced by this and mental health disorders. If we look at some of the factors that protect against negative outcomes, we have relatively little data. I'm sure that Caitlin will be sharing with you some of her findings. Yeah.
Can you just clarify that? You're saying that states where protection is minimal and states that are hostile then would have there would naturally be expected to be a higher rate of the depression and the suicide?
Not suicide, it hasn't been measured, but depression and all other mental disorders. Yeah, that 2010, let me just give you a little bit more of an idea about it. In the 2010 studies, what they did is they compared the data that they had. Remember, this is the database that has identified this roughly 600 LGBT people. Because it's a longitudinal study, they first looked at these people in 2001-2, and then they looked at them again in 04-05. In between those two surveys, they identified 16 states that had campaigns for marriage bans, same-sex marriage bans. So they took people that were living in those states in that interim period and looked at what happened to their mental health.
Okay.
So LGBT people living in those 16 states had increased prevalence of a whole array of mental disorders. It extended...
Was Ohio one of those 16 states?
I'm sure.
I'm sure it was, yeah. Okay.
Right? You can go back and just look at, the ones that had that. There were also some overflow effects in terms of LGBT people who lived in other states also reported some increased prevalence of mental disorders. None of these increases were found in heterosexuals in those states or in any other states. So, these are just really compelling data. They didn't delve into any of the nuances of this or the reasons or, even measure really direct exposure, but it certainly does provide, I think, some really compelling evidence that mental health is negatively affected by discriminatory laws and policies. In the 2009 study, they actually looked at not marriage. They looked at states there were no protections,
Mhm.
and things like, sort of the end kind of on the state